Chat. Good evening, Twitch.tv, and good evening to MB Studios, where you're watching our show, That Sounds Right. And good evening to me, Misinformation. I'm your host tonight, as always, and with me is my co-host, Will. Actually, good evening to you as well, Will.
Good evening to me, Misinformation. How are you today?
I am doing so well. You are looking fantastic, Will. You're looking ready for the show tonight.
Oh, thank you. Same to you, Misinformation. I'm ready. I believe you're ready too. Is that correct?
I think I am, Will. I'm feeling really ready to give out some points tonight.
Ooh, you know what? I'm feeling really ready too. I also feel that you're going to give a lot of right points tonight.
Wow. Will, here's what I love about you. You're always so optimistic about the things that you want from this show. As always, folks, if you haven't been here before, Will really loves when points go to people who give correct answers.
AKA deserve them.
Interesting. Okay. I personally, as as one of the hosts of the show, really like when the points go to someone who sounds right. When they give an answer that I hear and I think, hey, yeah, that sounds right. I don't know. It makes sense to me. If an answer makes me say that, does it really matter whether it's factual or correct or right? As long as we all go home thinking, hey, yeah, it sounds right.
I disagree, of course, but you're entitled to your opinion, and since you're the host and not the co-host, what you say goes, Misinformation.
Well, we love having you here. You've got fans in the audience, as always.
Hello, fans. I need you now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we're ready to get started, folks. I'm going to bring in our contestants. We have three terrific contestants here tonight, ready to give us some right-sounding answers. We've got Matt here. Matt, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Misinformation. It's wonderful to be here.
I'm very excited to have you. Are you feeling confident, Matt? Are you feeling ready to go?
I am. I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling prepared. I'm feeling very knowledgeable. I'm channeling Steve Jobs right now, so I'm really kind of trying to get that. I'm wearing jeans and a black turtleneck, so I feel like I'm really bringing in that kind of energy.
Absolutely. Matt, you definitely look knowledgeable, and on this show, looking knowledgeable is almost as important as sounding knowledgeable. It's really about the full package.
Yeah. I've watched many episodes of this show. I feel like I'm in a good space to come in and win.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, for those of you who don't know Matt is a producer right here on 2MB Studios, and other Dave Thomas in the chat has just said, Matt told me if he didn't win tonight, he'll cancel all my shows. So the stakes are high. They are.
And I did say that. I will go on record and say that I did in fact say that. Anything that David is on is canceled if I do not win.
All right. Well, it's great to have you here, Matt. Let's bring on Kristina. Kristina, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me. My name is also Kristina.
Wow. Kristina, you look you look incredible. You look smart. You look knowledgeable. You look ready to go.
I don't wear glasses.
Okay. Kristina, do you have a strategy tonight? What's your strategy here?
Well, my strategy is to look as smart as possible, potentially act as dumb as possible, and somewhere in the middle find gold.
It should balance out. I think that's a great strategy. It's one I feel like we often see on the show, and so we're going to see how it plays out. Let's bring on Gary. Gary's our third contestant. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody.
Gary, thanks for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
I'm Gary, and it's okay. Everything's going to be okay.
Great. Gary, how are you feeling about the show tonight?
I got to be honest with you. There's a lot of bad things in this world and things that we can all definitely learn from and improve on. But
Name three.
Name three, of course.
No, never mind. I'm sorry.
Government assistance, election fraud, and of course, the right to bear arms. But I think that we all need to remember one thing is that trivia sustains us in uncertain times. And I know what I'm going to do, Misinformation. I'm here to win.
Wow. Gary, I'm glad to hear that. Gary, you sound like you know a lot about a lot of different topics. You sound like you have a lot of knowledge. And sounding like you have a lot of knowledge is a great way to come into the game. So I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to have all of you here. Without further ado, folks, let's dive into the first round here. I'm going to read a question. We're going to hear 3 answers. One of these answers is a prepared correct answer from one of these contestants, but we don't know which. The other 2 contestants are hearing the question for the first time and making up a not correct answer right on the spot. Let's do it. The first question of the first round is, who inspired the name of the band Toad the Wet Sprocket? Okay, we all know the band Toad the Wet Sprocket. Who inspired the name of this band? And for this first round, first question, we're going to go to Matt first. Matt, give us your first answer of the night.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Misinformation. The band Toad the Wet Sprocket actually received their name from a sketch written by Mr. Eric Idle for the sketch group Monty Python's Flying Circus. The sketch was called Rock Notes, and Toad the Wet Sprocket was the first band mentioned in the title. And that's
Interesting.
That's where the lead singers of the band got the name.
Wow. So Matt, you're saying the band name was inspired by a sketch from Monty Python?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
It is taken directly from a Monty Python sketch written by one Mr. Eric Idle.
Folks, I don't know about you, but that sounds like it could be right. Let's get our next answer from Kristina. Kristina, what do you think?
The title, Toad the Wet Sprocket, well, name really, comes from the title of a ride at Disneyland, also Disney World, but Disney World recently got rid of it in lieu of a different ride. It is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And band members, well, it's based on a book, Wind in the Willows. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. So it is in fact a wild ride. Passengers sit in these little cars and they get spun around and whatnot. And the title comes from when 2 of the bandmates, who were actually good friends when they were younger, had gone to Disneyland together. The ride broke down, and so they were stuck in this wild ride on their own. And so it kind of translated into the band's name later on.
Wow. Kristina, that was a really that was a detailed answer, and it's one that definitely sounds right to me. Toad's Wild Ride, that is definitely a ride in a park that I've heard of.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of great details there. Gary, let's hear your answer before we make our decision.
It's such a nerdy band that, of course, it would be a inside joke between Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and Charles Sumner's personal letters. As you might know a little bit about history like I do, there's the abolitionist movement, and Charles Sumner, famous senator, who's going to be caned on the Senate floor eventually. And in their personal correspondence, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow of Cambridge, Harvard professor, had called Senator Robinson, who would eventually cane Sumner, Toad the Wet Sprocket, as sort of an insult, because in 1853 that was hilarious. So
Wow.
So you're saying a band from the 90s got their name from something a random politician said in the 1800s?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Matt,
I just wanted to make sure that was what was
You
happening.
sound skeptical, Matt. Are you skeptical of that answer?
Just slightly, but that's only because I don't know as much about history as Gary does.
Okay.
Gary knows a lot about history because he's part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. And a band would never, of course, name themselves after anything weird. Like, I can't think of 40 bands immediately that fit that title.
True.
Right?
It's true.
The Lovin' Spoonful.
Well, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is actually a ride through hell. So, I mean, that kind of plays well with band from that era. We were living
sure does.
At that time.
Yeah, Kristina, that's a great argument. That's That's an important point for your answer. We've got a lot of. I like to turn to the chat in these times because I misinformation, just know almost nothing, and in true form, I don't know the answer to this question. So I'm trying to discern who sounds right here in the chat. Brian Michael says this isn't fair. Everyone has glasses on and automatically sounds more correct.
Mhm.
So. Yeah, we've got. It's tough to discern. Matt, you're definitely getting. There we go.
Can I point out that if I'm at the right angle, I become an anime character?
Yeah, Kristina, I think that's definitely helping. We've got there's 3 really good answers here. Double glasses on Gary. We've got a lot of people supporting Matt's answer for sounding correct to them.
Thank you.
But I have to say, Kristina's answer is really what's sounding right to me. It's what's standing out to me right now because Sprocket is a type of, mechanical sort of piece. Mm-hmm. A sprocket is something that could be a part of a ride. If that sprocket were wet, it could cause the ride to break down in the fashion that Kristina described. Now, I don't know who's right. I really don't. My job here is to give points to the person who sounds the most right, and I'm gonna have to go with Smarz on this one for that logic. It follows basic logic. Nobody else's answer mentioned sort of a sprocket, which again is, to my knowledge, some sort of mechanical piece of something like a roller coaster ride.
Yes, they made them in the Jetsons.
Yes, that's right. I've rung my bell, which means, Kristina, you now have 5 points.
Yes,
the points have been given for that answer. It's an answer that sounds right. It ties into the toad. It ties into the sprocket. It just makes full sense.
Well, actually, that's incorrect. It is Matt and Eric Idle.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to deliver a nice, simple, and airtight, clean story that was factual. And I just, I can't compete. Yeah.
Here's the thing, Matt, you gave a correct answer, and that's all well and good.
But that's not what counts.
That's not what counts. Yeah. It didn't sound the most right to me. So for now, we're gonna move on. Matt, you have 0 points after that correct answer, and we're gonna hear question 2 of round 1, which is how many people died at Lexington Green on April 19th, 1775? Okay. On Lexington Green, April 19th, 1775. I think we all know what occurred here and then. So I want to know how many people died. We're going to mix up the order here. Kristina, I'm going to come to you first. How many people died on Lexington Green?
205. And there's actually like a really quick, easy way to figure that out. It's 1775. And if you add up the numbers and then add the last number, so 7 plus 7 being 14 plus 1 is 15 plus 5, you get your 200, and then add on the 5 from the 1775. That gives you 205 people. It's like history obviously is no math wizard, but it just is one of those weird sort of obscure facts that you can remember that way.
Right. Yeah, that seems simple enough. Kristina, it makes sense to me. 205 people could be right. Gary, what's your answer? How many people?
It's hard to say, and history is not black and white with numbers and so many things. But when you look at American history, there's only like 20, 30 people around at that time, so it's really kind of easy to pin down the numbers. And John Parker dying of tuberculosis and his 77 gathered militiamen on Lexington Green. Somebody would open fire. We don't know from where, after they were dissembled, disseminating, turning around. And the British soldiers wounded 10, but killed 8. 8 is your answer.
Wow. Wounded 10, killed 8. Okay, 2 very different answers so far. We've got 205 people died, perhaps 8 people died. Allison King in the chat says thousands, it was awful. So we've got a third answer coming in that it's thousands of.
He's actually referring to what happened in 2005. There was a farmer's market on
in Lexington, and
it was just melee. It was
wow.
They ran out of kombucha and everybody went ape shit.
Yeah, one person shows up dressed as a red coat, and it was just
good.
done from
Not
there.
good.
Of course, we are talking about 1775 in this question, Allison. But thank you for contributing, Matt. Let's hear your answer.
Misinformation. My fellow contestants have given wonderful answers. Gary, of course, sounds with his double glasses very correct. But I'm going to challenge that actually only one person died actually in Lexington Green. Many were injured, but as the British were advancing on the militiamen there, they actually backed them back to Concord before the people really started dying. In Lexington Green, though, there was only one fatality.
Wow. Okay, 3 totally different answers. Was it one person? Was it 8 people? Or was it 205 people?
Mm-hmm.
Once again, who's to say? Not me. I don't know. But misinformation. I'm an optimist, and of course, if I get to decide between what sounds right to me, one person dead or 205 people dead, well, I don't know what's true, but I'm gonna go with what sounds right to me, which is just one, only one person. Rest in peace to them.
Yep,
that's 5 points to Matt. True. Only one person died. Sounds right to me. Could be true, and Matt had a nice historical reasoning. To back it up.
I did. Strong historical reason.
I'm glad that Matt got points for the screw up the last question, but he is incorrect on this. It is actually Gary with 8. 8 militiamen died.
It makes sense that it would be the one right in the middle.
Yeah,
right in the middle.
Gary, you still sound upset about that too. Is everything all right? Like you sound like you're still reeling from that.
Those 8 losses.
Yeah.
They're just a statistic after 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what my parents said. I'm number 8.
Well, we're getting a really great backstory for some of our contestants here. Maybe that makes you root for them. Maybe it doesn't, audience members. But your job out there, folks, stay focused in the audience, is to help me figure out who sounds right. Let me know in the comments as we dive into the third question, which is Shinbone Alley and American Way were the first 2 musical flops that were written by this Broadway record holder. All right. Shinbone Alley and American Way, the first 2 musical flops that were written by this Broadway record holder. Let's get Gary's answer first. Gary, who is this Broadway record holder?
It's kind of surprising because these sound like they're very, very, very old, but it is Lin-Manuel Miranda. He tried these early on, and they weren't off Broadway. They were out away, not allowed near Broadway because of the war they did. You just can't, honestly, you can't rap every musical. It's just not going to work. You're going to pigeonhole yourself. You want to diversify your bonds.
Right. So Shinbone Alley was Lynn's first, and Broadway was like, don't get anywhere near us with that. Keep your distance.
Kid. You're done in this town. And then he wrote American Way, and they're like, yeah, even double done. And he's like, I'll show you. Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. Third time was
Hamilton. Yeah.
Hamilton.
Yes. Knocked it out of the park with that one. So first answer, Gary's answer is Lin-Manuel Miranda. Sounds right to me. Matt, Who wrote Shinbone Alley and American Way?
I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda is a wonderful guess, but the actual answer is Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks wrote both of these musicals right before he wrote The Producers. So he attempted to get onto Broadway 2 times before The Producers. Neither Shinbone Alley or American Way did well at all, and then The Producers came in and immediately won 12 Tonys. So setting a record that is yet to be broken, I believe.
Yeah. Wow. So that's basically the same answer as Gary's. Flop, win.
Right. But with the correct person instead of it's a tale as old as time.
A tale as old as time. Flop, win the Tonys.
Flop, win.
Christina, what is your answer?
Okay, I appreciate their attempt at understanding musical theater, but I was a theater major in college, so I understand a lot about both Broadway and theater in general. These were both written by the inimitable Andrew Lloyd Webber, Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, and they were written obviously quite a while prior to some of his biggest releases. So Shinbone Alley was actually written, it's kind of like, it was meant to be a dark comedic romp about Jack the Ripper, and it takes place in London, and it was first performed at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, where it was wildly popular, but there wasn't quite the market to bring it onto the Broadway stage. And The American Way was actually written when he was a much younger man, and it was written as sort of a little bit of a satire about literally the American way, but it didn't quite have the gravitas of any of his other musicals. Namely, let's say we'll start with The Phantom of the Opera, right, taking place in the Paris Opera House. Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Like a lot of his much bigger things, he decided to branch out and not be so satirical, but instead write musicals that had more heart. So he was still kind of finding his voice, but these were 2 earlier works. But again, Shinbone Alley was wildly loved at Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yeah. Shinbone Alley was actually a show about a poet that gets turned into a cockroach.
What? A poet that gets turned
into a cockroach. Yeah.
Okay. Let me be honest. Yeah. Let me be honest with all of you. None of these answers sound right. None of them sound so right to me. I am not really convinced by any of them. But I have to give out the points. Yes, Gary, please.
Just clarify, Shinbone Alley is about a Puerto Rican chiropractor.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds a little bit like here.
That's actually, it was one of the characters from In the Heights. Yeah. That's true.
It was a spinoff. Right.
It was a small little guy.
Yeah.
Very rough. Allison King coming in the chat again to say you're all full of it.
Yeah, full
what
fire.
What a disappointment.
Yeah, guns blazing. I see a couple for me. Just right,
I see a couple for you too, Matt. I see some for Smarz as well. Look, I'm whenever I think that nobody sounds right, I always go with the chat because I have to give out the points, and the chat always helps me. I'm gonna go with the answer that was most popular in the chat which is Matt. Okay, so I'm gonna give.
We're all making mistakes, big mistakes.
5 points. To be honest, Christina, I thought you sounded the most right with Andrew Lloyd Webber, because if you could write a whole musical about cats getting abducted by aliens, which I believe was him, you could probably write something called Shinbone Alley. But I've given the points to Matt.
Have you seen Cats? I don't know. Is that how Cats?
I don't know that there's an abduction going on.
I think that's absolutely
the audience is abducted. Really, when you think about it.
So, Matt, you have 5 more points added.
Well, that's correct.
Wow.
It was Matt and Mel Brooks. Way to go.
First one of the night. The first one I went with the chat, and it's the first one of the night. Would you look at that? That's often how it happens around here.
All right. Well, I see which way this butter's breaded.
Yeah, well, it's because the chat likes Will better than they like me. That's always been true. I've come to terms with it, but oftentimes when I go with the chat, they want to give Will what he wants. So there you have it. Matt, you're leading now. You're 10 points up. You're in the lead. You're doing well. So far, other Dave Thomas is not getting canceled here on 2MB Studios, so he's probably feeling pretty good as well.
He's been
Matt,
pretty good.
before we move on, is there anything that you want to share with the audience? As the person in the lead, what do you want to say to your
my goodness
fans?
me. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who's watching and supporting the channel. That's 2MB Studios. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, do that, because that's awesome for you to do that. I will pitch a show, or I will promote a show tonight at 9 o'clock is the very last episode of Run On. So Ben Scree and myself and Arthur will be leading a cast of contestants through the Run On hoops for one last time.
Amazing.
Very excited.
Everybody, definitely stick around for that. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Matt. We are going to move on to our second round. Our first question of our second round is, how many dogs were convicted of witchcraft in the Salem witch trials? Very straightforward question here. In the Salem witch trials, how many dogs were convicted of witchcraft? Matt, I'm coming right back to you. How many dogs were convicted of witchcraft?
I believe the total number of dogs, not any other animal, just dogs, correct?
Yes, just dogs.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to say that number is 12. There were 12. There were 12 dogs. There was a pack that was roaming about Salem, and they thought that they were part of the witches. They thought that the black shadow man sent them, and so they rounded up this pack of dogs and did away with them.
All right, 12 dogs in the pack, and they got those dogs out of there. All right. Kristina, you're shaking your head. What's your answer?
He's absolutely wrong. It was 6 dogs, because they rounded up 6 dogs, 6 cats, and 6 snakes. So they got the number 666, and it partly had to do. And this is when you say the witch trials, you're talking Salem witch trials, correct? Like Massachusetts,
That's right.
okay, which actually took place in Danvers. It didn't actually take place in Salem, but we can dissect that later. Danvers never gets the credit it deserves. As far as the dogs, 2 of the dogs belonged to a couple of the actual Salem witches. One was Goody Proctor, and the other was Goody Nurse. And those dogs went ballistic when these women were on trial. They were home dogs that were used in the farm and stuff like that. So these dogs, when they perceived their owner, their kind of beloved owner, to be in danger, they kind of attacked. So immediately they were, restrained, held down, and assumed to be evil and in cahoots with the witches. So Giles Corey was actually a very a huge animal lover. So he had a couple of cats, and if you remember, Giles Corey was the one who was pressed with rocks and accused of various witchery. So he had 2 cats and 2 dogs, I believe. So that accounts for 4 of the dogs. The other 2 I'm not 100% sure of, but I know that it was 6 because it was 666.
666. Okay, so they gathered up these sort of these like beloved pets of people who had been put on trial, and it ended up adding up. So that was probably their confirmation right there that they could stop looking.
Well, so the dogs and the cats there were 6 of each, and as far as they just went, snakes were automatically seen as evil, so they really just caught 6 snakes to sacrifice that correct number, the 666. Like the snakes were rather arbitrary. Nobody kept snakes.
So it could have been 6 of anything.
Yeah,
but they chose snakes.
Yeah, there's a big conversation about rats as also being evil, and there's a number of rats killed, but not for witchcraft, more just for being like animals of the devil, like animals pertaining to the devil, like nuisances more than anything. Anything that was a nuisance was blamed on witchcraft or Satan for the most part.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense to me, Kristina. Gary, let's hear your answer. How many dogs were convicted of witchcraft in the Salem witch trials?
This is kind of one of my favorite things to think about once a day, is that in a court of law, 2 dogs were brought in at one point, and it doesn't say that the judge did this, but I imagine that they were like, "How do you plead?" And the dogs were like, and they thought like they could trick him to talk.
Yeah.
And then and then they eventually, I think, put the dogs down. It was probably like the dogs just drank the water, which may have been poisoned with mercury at the time. May have been rabies, but probably not. I don't think rabies is really kind of around back then,
right.
At least that we know of. It's hard, but a lot of the common themes with the Salem witch trials is people or things with some sort of like mental illness going on are immediately diagnosed to be wicked or possessed or something. So it's too, unfortunately. The good news is two things. The dogs were later acquitted, and witchcraft isn't real. So,
wow.
Yeah, found that out.
Tough facts, Gary.
Is that true?
Tough fact. Hard to say whether that sounds right or not. Gary, you're getting a ton of support in the chat for that answer. And I will say, any of these could be true. 12 dogs, 6 dogs, 2 dogs. We're convicting them of witchcraft. This is a wild time in history. Who knows? Yeah. But I will say, Gary, those details sounded right. You were right on the last history question, so you're getting a bit of a history reputation around here in the chat as well. I'm going to go ahead and give you 5 points for sounding right on that answer there. 2 dogs, they went into court and they were like,
well, that's correct. 2 in a row.
2 in a row.
Well,
that you're feeling good, Will.
Oh, I'm feeling great about the rest of this game. It's all up from here.
We'll see. We'll see about that, Will, actually. We've got another question coming in hot from round 2. Round 2, question 2. Who were the 3 uncredited cameos in the film Hook? Hook, of course, beloved film. It's like Peter Pan live action, basically, but a little more saucy in some ways, if I remember correctly. And there were 3 uncredited cameos. Let's get who are those 3 uncredited cameos. So we're looking for 3 names here, and I'm coming to Kristina first. Kristina, give me those 3 names.
All right. Well, the first one was Gary Sinise, Demi Moore, and Rue McClanahan from Golden Girls. They were just all they just wanted to be in the movie. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They approached the director. Was it Spielberg? I'm forgetting who. Yeah, they approached Spielberg and they were like, "Hey, okay."
Oh, did he produce it? Who directed it?
Anyways, Hitchcock. Thank you, Allison. Thank you for the help. So those 3 were just like, we love this story, want to be in it, and it was Spielberg that was like, yeah, absolutely, and he was a big Golden Girls fan, so he was like, Rue McClanahan, definitely.
Yeah, he's going to be directing after West Side Story. He's going to do a Golden Girls reboot.
Yeah, he is.
Spielberg is, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, from The Hunger Games, Jennifer Lawrence is playing Sophia.
Yeah.
That's the great details. Great details, Kristina. Those were 3 names. That could absolutely sound correct. Let's go with Gary. Gary, what's your answer? Who were the cameos?
The cameos, and I know them well because I've seen this movie a lot, and it is absolute favorite soundtrack and everything by John Williams. You have Alan Hoffman, which is Dustin Hoffman's father, plays one of the pirates when they're panning around when they first get to Never Never Land, and Robin Williams wakes up and he's kind of like looking around. This old man that says something when his hook comes out is Dustin's would soon to be dying father. The guy that goes in the boo box is actually a woman, a very famous actress. Helen Mirren plays the guy that goes in the boo box. The makeup is hiding Miss Mirren, and the mermaid. When Peter falls off the boat into the water, and they start having this weird, sexy scene where they breathe air into him, which is not how air works, but they're mermaids. One of the mermaids is her Sex and the City girl, Carrie. What's her name? Sarah
Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker. I said Sarah Horse Parker. That's not right. Sarah Jessica
No.
Parker.
Oh no!
Wow, Gary.
That's
Shots fired. SJP.
Called her.
I'm calling Matthew Broderick, who is one of the Broadway stars. See, I know Broadway.
You do have a degree in
ran
theater.
over my cousin with a car, so I don't care.
Wow.
no.
So,
That was
Gary,
your
you
cousin?
clearly have a real personal connection to this answer, as you just demonstrated. So, Gary, give me one more time. It was Helen Mirren, Alan Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman's father, and Jessica Parker. Sarah Jessica Parker. Sarah Jessica
Parker.
Okay.
AKA
Fantastic.
the horse.
Matt, what is your answer?
Once again, my fellow competitors have some amazing answers. The actual answer is there are two pirates in Pirate Town that are played by David Crosby of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and Jimmy Buffett are two of the pirates. And then Gary was very close. The pirate that gets put in the boo box is a woman playing a male pirate. But it was not Helen Mirren. It was actually Glenn Close was the pirate that got put in the boo box. David Crosby, Jimmy Buffett, and Glenn Close are your three cameos.
Jimmy Buffett in Hook?
Yeah, he was the pirate where when they first come into Pirate Town and he's like, "Give me those shoes!" Like he's like looking at Robin Williams' shoes because he's got the fancy lawyer shoes on. His fancy lawyer in shoes.
He was looking for his long lost shaker of salt.
Yeah.
He's the one pirate in a Hawaiian shirt boiling.
Right.
Just
and he had a cheeseburger in his hand.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, these are okay. This is tough. This is difficult because here's the thing. I don't believe Matt. That doesn't sound right to me.
Just come right out and say it. Misinformation.
I don't believe Matt. I'm crossing Matt off the list. I don't think that Jimmy Buffett is in the movie Hook. I'm sorry, it just does not sound right to me. Gary could be right, but
who else would be? Who else? I mean, Jimmy Buffett is a pirate. Like.
Listen, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and I've probably seen it once, maybe twice, because I remember some of these things that you're talking about. I don't know what the heck a boo box is, so I don't know what's going on with that. But I feel like if Sarah Jessica Parker swam up as a mermaid, I'd be like, oh, I feel like I would remember that, and that seems like something that would stick out to me. Now, Kristina Smarz named 3 people, and I don't think I know who any of them are. So if I was watching this movie, I definitely wouldn't remember any of those people.
Okay,
Kristina, who are the names?
Barack Obama, right?
Well, Rue McClanahan, she played one of the Lost Boys, but like one of the many Lost Boys.
Right, one of the many. Just a cameo. People don't get excited.
And you don't know who Rue McClanahan is?
Rumor.
He was on the Golden Girls.
She was on the Golden Girls. She played Blanche.
Oh well, I know who that is.
As a Lost Boy.
As a Lost Boy. These are tricky.
It was like, I mean, yeah.
And remember about Sarah Jessica Parker, one thing. The transition she has from Hocus Pocus to Sex and the City is a completely different person.
Well, here's the other thing, though.
Oh my gosh.
Gary Sinise was one of the others, and this was what led him up. He was playing a pirate, just in like a big pirate scene, and this was partly where he got cast as Lieutenant Dan in you know
what? I know who that is too.
Yeah. So it was partly because of his role in Hook, just as like a background pirate dude, that Spielberg was like, oh, like he could definitely be in
the Robert Zemeckis film, Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. You know what? Everybody stop. I've had a revelation. Gary just said that Sarah Jessica Parker is in Hocus Pocus. And I was like, no, she's not. And then I thought about it and I realized, oh my God, that's Sarah Jessica Parker. And you know what, Gary? I never even noticed. That was her before. But you're absolutely right. So that stands to exact reason that she could show up as a mermaid and I'd be like, who is that? I'm not thinking about it. Because clearly that happened in the Hocus Pocus movie. This is a very tight train of logic here. So I am going to have to give it to Gary. Because for that flawless logic of me not recognizing Sarah Jessica Parker and Hocus Pocus.
Flawless.
It could be right.
It is in fact not correct. Unfortunately, it was Matt.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That was
Jimmy
it hurts when
Buffett
I get cut off right at the start. It hurts.
Just straight up cut him out.
I actually knew that one as a real answer. So.
Same. I thought Phil Collins is uncredited as well.
He is as well, I think.
Is he?
Phil Collins is in this movie?
He's a detective, and this is not the bluff.
Detective?
He shows up for like 1 minute. He's like, yeah, we'll find you, children. And then he leaves.
Yeah.
Oh, that can't be true. Phil Collins of Genesis? We have to move on. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. Let's go to question 3 of round 2, which is, what did Aldous Huxley and C.S. Lewis have in common? Am I saying this name right? Aldous Huxley?
Yep.
Aldo? Yes? Who is
Aldo.
this? Tell me that, and then tell me what this person and C.S. Lewis have in common. Gary, go ahead.
You can say Al. His friends call him Al.
Al
We're all
Huxley.
friends here. And C.S. Lewis, so you know Alice in Wonderland. C.S. Lewis is part of that. Alice in Wonderland, he wrote it. And, I mean, he may have stolen it. But C.S. Lewis and Al Huxley were supposed lovers. But it was not, it was early 1900s. So
It was not supported.
Right. And they did fight a lot for, women's suffrage and other human rights, because they both being men were like, we have to, embrace, this struggle out there. I think it really it's where I get a lot of my inspiration. It's like, fighting for people that aren't myself. And,
Wow.
I'm just
That's
really
very good of you,
I'm
Gary.
a little choked up about it. I know I'm trying, and C.S. Lewis is a true inspiration. Alice in Wonderland, The Mirror, so good. But they were in love.
Okay, so that's what they have in common, is they were in love with each other.
Civil
Thank you,
rights leaders.
Yeah, and civil rights leaders. Thank you, Gary. That's a great answer. Could be right. Matt, what's your answer? What do these two people have in common?
So I know a lot of people think that C.S. Lewis wrote Alice in Wonderland, but C.S. Lewis is in fact known for his writings of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Narnia series. And Aldous Huxley actually is a woodworker, and he is the person that made the wardrobe that inspired C.S. Lewis to write this series of books about a magical wardrobe that takes children to a magical land where animals talk.
Matt, if
Yes.
C.S. Lewis did not write Alice in Wonderland, who did?
That would be Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland. Yeah.
Oh, that could be true.
Yeah, no, that's 100%
racist for you.
That might be right. Okay, so Matt's answer is Huxley made a wardrobe and it inspired Lewis to write The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
The titular wardrobe, yes.
C.S. Lewis looked at this wardrobe and he was like, wow, that wardrobe is so beautiful. There might be a lion, a witch, and an allegory for God in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kristina Smarz, what is your answer?
My answer is that these two are dumb as fuck. And they're both terribly misguided.
Wow.
I'm just going to lay it all out there because, I mean, Aldous Huxley, maybe he had like a hobby in woodworking, but they're both English writers. I mean, which is partly what they have in common. Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World. Anyways,
Never heard of it.
What they are most notably, sort of their most notable commonality is actually one of the things that they are not known for. So wizard that in your brain. They both died on the same day, which coincidentally was the same day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, which is why their deaths were overshadowed, and nobody remembers that.
All right. You know what? I'll buy it. Yeah, Kristina Smarz, 5 points. 5 points. No debate on that one. I have to end round 2. That sounds right. that
is
right,
correct.
Right?
Yes, that is right. That was
I can't imagine any of the others.
Beautiful.
Great
I
job,
thought Aldous
everybody.
Huxley ran Hogwarts. I thought that was the
No,
guy that ran Hogwarts.
Albus Dumbledore.
Aldous Huxley wrote those
Great
books.
Yes.
The Hunger
Okay.
Games.
Listen, we finished round 2, and it's tied up. It's 10 to 10 to 10. Matt, you had a strong lead at first. Not so much anymore. It's a tie
Okay, I like
game.
a tie.
This belongs to anybody now. We're going to dive into the third round, but not before I talk to Gary. Gary, you started this round with no points. You are now, you've pulled yourself up as an underdog. You are now tied for the lead with these 2 other competitors. What do you want to share with the audience? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, that deficit drives my energy, and when Matt and Kristina got points in this game, I took offense to that. That was my dad blowing his nose. Did everybody hear that? It wasn't a hilarious parade trumpet from Memorial Day. Thanks, Dad.
Mm-hmm. Gary, before we dive into the third round, is there anything that you want to share with the audience? Is there anything you want to direct their attention to?
I have an album, Yellow Belt Confidence, on deadmellow.com. I do a lot of YouTube videos. Nobody stops us. With my friend Rob Green, Anderson Comedy is our YouTube page that he does great editing on. And I have podcasts with Chris Walsh, very funny, hilarious comedian, called Death by Comedy, where we talk all about horrific, awful, terrible comedy gigs.
Amazing, everybody. Check out all that fun stuff. Is that at Comedy Gary P? Is that your Twitter handle, Gary?
That's my Instagram and Twitter. Yeah.
Instagram and Twitter, everybody. Check it out. But not before we check out round 3, question 1, which is, what is the loudest animal on Earth and how loud? What is the loudest animal on Earth and how loud?
My mother.
Hey!
And
We'll
it
be here
depends
all
on
night.
what I did.
Matt, what's the loudest animal on Earth? How loud is it?
The loudest animal on Earth is actually the blue whale. And the reason that we don't hear them above, on land is because they're in the water and we can't hear them, which, I mean, makes obvious sense. But they are so loud that if they were to make their noises above ground, it would rupture your eardrum.
Wow.
I don't know what the exact frequency is, but it's pretty, it's
That's
pretty intense.
one loud whale.
Yeah.
Matt, that could be right, because as we know, those are big animals. So
they're huge. They have huge lungs and just can get.
Great answer. Kristina, what is your answer? What's the loudest animal on Earth and how loud?
Yeah, I feel very bad for Matt here because he's so close but so terribly misinformed. And this is a debate amongst entomologists all over the world. as to and sound studiers as to what is the loudest, and it's actually a sperm whale. The blue whale is up there. I think raking in at like about 188 decibels. But a sperm whale can get up to like 230. I think the highest was like 236. Like 230 is sort of like the average decibels. Definitely enough to like shake your insides and really explode you. But yeah, so one of the weird things, the comparisons is sperm whales communicate with clicks. So they're kind of like 100 millisecond, like they start almost by the time you hear it, they've already stopped making the sound, but like it's so piercing. Whereas blue whales, like they have like 10 to 30 second long,
which make them louder, which makes it louder.
It's not louder.
Length equals loud.
I beg to differ in so many ways.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
Matt, let's be civil, please.
I need to be. I'm sorry. I need to be civil. I apologize.
We measure sound by decibels, so it is in fact the sperm whale.
Right. Yeah, Kristina, I'm not here to say that you just instantly beat out Matt, but you did have some numbers thrown in there, which is really, we like to hear that. Gary, let's hear your answer. What's the loudest animal on Earth and how loud?
It's so simple. It's an elephant, and they destroy sound. I mean, whales are in the ocean. Nobody listens to the ocean. What weirdos that need sleep. Look at how big an elephant's trunk is. It's basically a parade horn float, like the one you heard earlier from my dad's nose. They're giant nose-based sounds, and they're going with whales, and I took offense to that.
Well, I'm glad that we all are in agreement that it's a large mammal, something big and mammalian. It has got to do it for us here. Now, I don't know who has the right answer here, but I'm reasoning through this. Elephant is definitely the one I've heard the most in terms of sounds. I've heard that sound the most. But on the other hand, here's what I know about sperm whales. As I said, Matt's already out of the running.
I'm already out. Remember, the last time you did that, I was right. I was right.
That's just a pattern, Matt.
Okay.
That means nothing. But here's what I'll say is that Kristina's answer is a sperm whale. Here's what I know about a sperm whale. They're predators. And they got to find their prey. Those clicking noises, that could be what we call echolocation, right? They're deep divers.
Those are
that sounds got to travel. Elephants, when they make noise, their noises basically just mean Yahoo, or like come on everybody, or something like get the heck out of my way. These are things that are elephants shouting.
Something like that,
Let me out of the zoo. I'm gonna trample someone on purpose.
Right.
That might be the kind of thing that an elephant's yelling. But a sperm whale is they're trying to get a job done. Their sound probably has to travel a lot farther. I'm gonna go at Smarz had data as well. Thank you, Exploding Lobster, for the reminder. Let's go with Smarz on this one. For sperm whale, and I'm feeling, to be honest, this is the most I'm feeling confident tonight. So let's see what Will has to say, but this is the most confident I felt about
Will actually here, and you should be feeling confident because that is correct misinformation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good old sperm whale.
Yeah.
Good old sperm whales.
Just drops that and then leaves. Just good old sperm whales. I'm out.
We love them.
What if he died and that was the last thing he said?
Oh no.
Will?
He's fine.
Will, are you okay?
I'm here. I'm fine.
Anything else?
What if that was the last thing he said? I'm here. I'm fine. And then,
Nothing.
Listen, round 2, 3, question. Round 3, question 2 is, which is the best American Girl doll? I feel like I'm losing it.
Yeah.
This is going to be our longest show ever.
the best one, huh? All right.
Yes. What's the best American Girl doll? You have to give me the best one. Kristina Smarz, you have to go first. What's the best American Girl doll?
I mean, that's so subjective.
Okay.
But no, but it's not, because probably sales would let you know. So I'm going to go with Addie Walker as number one. Addie Walker, as you all know, it's got to be a strong doll, right? Like, Allison says, well, Allison. Don't they all? So Addie was a very strong 9-year-old who escaped slavery with her mom, and then moves to Philadelphia. So I think Addie Walker she was resilient, she was brave, and she had a kind heart. And so I think not only does that make her the most popular in terms of being purchased, but it also makes her the best, because she overcame a lot more than some of those other little trollops did. So,
wow, we've got Abigail Fear in the comments here. I had Addie. She was my first American Girl doll.
Oh, see, there we go.
So you're already getting support in the chat.
But that's not anything.
So we know that Addie is an actual American
for Kristina
Girl doll.
Right.
Let's see about these other two Jimos.
Whether or not they were the most popular or the best.
The best.
Gary, what do you think? Which is the best American Girl doll?
Well, a couple of years ago, in honor of the anniversary of the Miracle Workers story about Helen Keller coming out, the American Girl doll made a doll that was said to have, who was hard of hearing, I think was the term at the time. And I think it's like, I don't know what it is now, forgive me, auditory issues. And why this is the best, they named it Helen after Helen Keller, is one of my personal heroes. And somebody pointed out, not me, that this means all the other American Girl dolls can hear you, which is creepy. Like they've been listening to us this whole time. So I think that makes her shoo-in as the best, that she's not, recording you in some way.
Right. Yeah, Gary, that's some solid reasoning right there.
Thank you.
Matt, let's hear your answer. Which is the best American Girl doll?
I mean, that's, as Smarz said, it is very subjective, but I would say probably the best American Girl doll would be Sally Cartwright. And Sally Cartwright was a scientist. She was her backstory was she was a lab assistant to Marie Curie. So it was a science-based, little girls can grow up and be anything they want. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of message that I think makes for the best American Girl doll.
The ironic truth is that that's not true, though. Little girls can't grow up and be anything they want.
Well,
there you go, Matt.
Kristina
Smarz does not.
Little girl, I know. As a former little girl, I know the answer.
Folks, this is in some ways a really tough one, because it's a very subjective question. I was really looking to hear some arguments here. In other ways, this is not such a tough one. I'm going to go ahead and go with the person who did name an American Girl doll, which was Kristina Smarz. That was the person who named an American Girl doll. Oh. I don't think either of the other two, I haven't heard of that. It's been a while, but Addie is the one. That's a name that's sticking out to me. I'm going to give 5 points to Kristina for a name that's the name of an actual American Girl doll. I think no one could blame me for that.
I think Sally Cartwright sounds like a good American Girl doll.
Does sound like a good name. Yeah.
But unfortunately, Matt, it is not correct. It is Smarz.
Yes. Okay. I started to get nervous as I was. Anytime I speak confidently on this show, I feel like. It doesn't go well. But yes, that Addie is in fact an American Girl doll. I remember that for sure. Kristina, you're walking away with another 5 points for that. We're going to go into the third round here with the third question in the third round, which is how many people died, another one of these, how many people died in the Boston Massacre on March 5th, 1770? Okay, so the first time in Lexington, we learned 8 people died. We learned that from Gary. Gary got 0 points for that correct answer. We have another answer coming up from all three of these contestants on how many people died in the Boston Massacre, March 5th, 1770. And let's go to Gary first on this one. Gary, how many people?
On that day, and people are going to get weird about the answer is always with history, because people die after, and they're like, well, he died like 6 months later, so he's a sixth victim. It's 5. March 5th, 5 died. The Bloody Massacre on King Street. Simple.
5 people eventually from this massacre died. Is that right?
5 on that day. 5 on that day. Other people
5
say,
on the day.
That's it. Yeah, there's no other people. Historians will argue and be like, well, people died after that around Boston or later because of the wounds.
Right.
It's 5. Done.
It's 5. 5 done. Don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, what do you want?
Historians. We know it.
Yeah,
Got
don't be nerds.
It's 5. Matt, what's your answer? How many people
5.
died?
I mean, 5 isn't a massacre. 5 is a few people die. The Boston Massacre actually killed about 47 people.
47?
Just all in one. There was a big crowd, and it was like half the crowd too, because there was only about maybe 100, 150 people in this crowd, and they just opened fire and just laid waste to all these people, and that's why it was called the bloodiest massacre, and that's why it kind of got us into the Revolutionary War.
I guess it is called the Boston Massacre. I mean, that would be a real.
I mean, it's a massacre.
Deadly
event.
Yeah. We're not known for exaggerating in this town.
No, especially our forefathers. Our forefathers really didn't exaggerate.
Right. They wanted things to just be clear.
Very clear, right out the gate.
Kristina Smarz, what is your answer? How many people?
It's actually 6. So Gary was close.
Are these Price is Right rules? Are we doing Price is Right rules here?
But here's the thing.
I want to change my answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic that it was a massacre, right? But like only 6 people died, and we all know how it started.
Right?
Addicts, and there was it started with like almost a snowball fight, right? Like, and it was outside of if you're downtown Boston, well, it's King Street then, but like right now there's like a big Bank of America there, but like there was a pub. So those who died, what was it? It was Christmas addicts. Samuel Gray, James
Ted Lasso.
No, James Caldwell, Samuel Maverick. There was a little boy, Patrick somebody or other. And then the one that like nobody counts because it wasn't part of the melee, but there was a shopkeeper, well, like a barkeep, because it like sort of took place outside of a meeting house essentially.
Yeah.
That name, it was James somebody, and I don't know his name, but he had a heart attack, like with all that was going on outside.
Oh no!
Died of a heart attack. So it's he's one of like history's forgotten sons, where like he was providing a place for these people to meet, and like, everything was going on. He dies of a heart attack, but he's not kept in like sort of that traditional count.
Gary, you look so skeptical about this.
Yeah, anybody that first of all, they did not know what a heart was in 1770. They would have just called him a fucking witch, Smarz, and threw him away. And
he still died.
And the reason why this gets blown up in exaggeration is because of Sam Adams and his propaganda machine and the Sons of Liberty moving.
Right, he was able to disseminate information and get it out so people could,
on beer bottles.
It is at this time, this 5 dead, 7 wounded on the Bloody Massacre at King Street. Boston's nearly alone in the fight towards independence and their own rights. But the colonies start to turn their heads and see this action against the peoples of Boston, even though it is over a snowball and a couple of fights that happened a couple days before a rope walk where Christmas addicts worked and soldiers and them kept getting fights on March 2nd. But
47
this is 5 people dying. Sam Adams uses a propaganda calling it the Boston Massacre. Paul
Mhm,
Revere sketches, copies of sketch, and
But that was a big
they
thing
work
because
together.
Sam Adams purposely didn't put James, whatever his name is, and I'm forgetting it, but like he purposely didn't name him because he was like, this guy is like, he saw him, well, I mean, they didn't have capitalism back then, but he saw him basically as sort of a mercenary. Like, he's running this alehouse, making money off of people. He's profiteering, where we're trying to do something for real. So he's like, he's not a victim of this. He's not part of this. Like, him, he's not part of this cause.
Okay.
Sam Adams
Here's
would always want the number to be higher, but it's 5. Why wouldn't he want it to be
Plus
higher for
42 more.
propaganda purposes? Of course,
Because he
but
didn't
it's
want
not.
James, whatever the fuck his name was, to get any credit for being part of the
All right.
revolution. Like, his kids would have gotten some sort of, like, I mean, his widow,
How many
Mary.
kids did he have?
Here's what I'm hearing. Matt says 47 people.
47 people.
Could be true. Gary and Kristina basically say the same answer. They have the same answer. It's 5 or 6, 5 or 6, 5 or 6.
47.
Now the big question is what it comes down to is whether or not you believe in Heart Attack John, whether or not you believe he was real. Heart Attack James.
Give him some credit. It was Heart Attack James.
Heart Attack
Would.
James. Whether or not you believe in Heart Attack James. So Kristina says, yes, we believe in this shopkeeper. And Gary, of course, says they didn't know about hearts back then. Another great answer. But what it comes down to is it's Gary's exactly right that why would Samuel Adams not have counted every single person to make it an even more big deal? That's why they called it the Boston Massacre, even though, Matt, 47 people, I bet, did not die. I'm going to give 5 points to Gary. 5 points to Gary. In the final question of the final round, just in time, 5 points for 5 deaths.
Well, actually, here, 5 points for 5 deaths. That's correct.
That's the way we do it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Nailed it.
Heart Attack James is rolling over in his grave, everybody.
Everybody look up Heart Attack James after the show.
R.I.P. Heart Attack James.
R.I.P. Heart Attack James. Folks, we're going to go into the bonus lightning round here. Folks in the chat, if it's your first time here, I don't give any points during the bonus lightning round. Not a single one. It's up to you who wins, and it could be anybody. This is anybody's game. I'm going to show a question. We're going to hear 3 answers. I want you to put a name in the chat for the person that you think should get a bonus point for their answer. Let's see that first question, Will, actually. What's it going to be? Gary, who is this?
Helen Mirren.
Kristina, who is this?
That's Helen Keller.
Matt, who is this?
Marie Antoinette's mother.
Will, who is this, actually?
Oh, it's Marie. It's Marie Curie.
Oh, I
Marie
talked about
Curie.
her earlier.
Yeah.
American Girl Dolls. Yeah.
You did excellent work, everybody. Excellent work. We're already seeing those bonus points roll in for all of you. Gary, what is this?
Love.
Smarz, what is this?
That's a dog.
Could be true. Matt, what is this?
That's Wishbone's stunt double.
Will, what is this actually?
It's a toy fox terrier.
Toy fox terrier, looks to be a very cute dog. So Kristina, you're going to get some credit for that in the bonus points. I have to imagine definitely correctly identifying that it was in fact a dog. Let's go ahead and go to the next question here. What is this? Gary, what is this?
Quinoa.
Okay. Smarz, what is this?
Very expensive caviar.
Matt, what is this?
That is gunpowder sushi.
Gunpowder sushi. Okay. Will, what is this actually?
It is caviar.
It is caviar.
Okay.
Kristina, did you know it for sure?
I did know it for sure,
I
yeah.
was gonna, yeah.
You're
yeah,
a very
okay.
fancy person, so you were
I
like,
know
I've
for
seen
sure.
it 1,000 times.
Yep.
Yeah. Definitely a big caviar eater. Kristina Smarz eats caviar
Smarz eats
every
it all
night
the
next
time.
to her
Every night,
1,000
yep.
degrees. Let's do one more. Will, one more on the board. Here we go. Gary, where is this?
Fire Festival.
Smarz, where is this?
This is off the coast of Tahiti.
And Matt, where is this?
This is the private island that Disney owns.
Will, where is this actually?
This is the military installation of Diego Garcia.
That's what I said.
And Will, does Disney own this?
Disney does not own it unless Disney is the U.S. military.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
Is Fire Festival considered there as an option?
I'd like to say I'm the only one who provided an actual location.
Will, you are once again getting a bonus point in the chat, officially putting Will on the board and in fourth place. Folks, I am ready to declare a winner, but not before I talk to Kristina Smarz. Kristina, do you have anything that you want to tell the audience before we announce a winner?
Are they still able to vote?
Bonus points polling has been closed. I have all the bonus points in and tallied.
Well, then never mind, because I was going to compliment them on being very intelligent and very cute, very attractive. But I take that all back now.
No need for that.
For me anymore. I really got nothing going on in my life. If any of them are hiring, that'd be great. Also, tune in tomorrow, where the other Dave Thomas is going to be joining myself and Kelly McFarland at this very same time, 7 to 8 p.m. on Genuine Nonsense on this very same channel, 2MB Studios at twitchtv.com. Also, my Venmo is Kristina-Smarz.
Send Kristina Smarz money, please, everybody.
So that's pretty much all I've got to plug, and thank you all for being knowledgeable.
Amazing. Thank you so much, folks. Come right back here tomorrow. You're getting some job suggestions in the chat as well. So you can take a look at those, Kristina. But let me tell you, I am ready to declare a winner. And the winner of tonight is going to get a diploma from 2MB University, coming out ahead with, oh my gosh, an amazing 26 points is Kristina Smarz, everybody. Kristina,
I never win anything.
Congratulations. You have won tonight. You have won, which means you have also graduated with a diploma from 2MB University. My guess is you are not going to need any job suggestions from the chat for much longer. They're going to be headhunting you. They're going to be calling you up. They're
going on the resume, baby.
Put it on the resume, hang it on your wall. Definitely throw it on LinkedIn. You're going to want that up there. Thank you so much for showing up. Nat and Gary, thank you so much for playing tonight. Will, thank you as always for everything you do. And audience, thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. We have been That Sounds Right on 2MB Studios. You can catch us here next week, and stay tuned for Run On later tonight.
Bye.
Thank you.